Weihnachtstag des Jahres 1560 erreichten wir die letzte Passhöhe des Andengebirges und sahen zum ersten Mal in den gelobten Urwald hinab.
Den Fluss kommt niemand lebend hinunter.
Und ich sag dir, es geht doch. Von jetzt an geht es bergauf.
Jetzt geht es bergab.
So kann es nicht mehr weitergehen, Männer. Das Gelände hier ist so schwierig, dass wir einfach nicht mehr weiterkommen.
Hier sind überall Indianer. Aguirre wagt nicht, sich jemals gegen die spanische Krone zu erheben.
Wir sind hier nicht in Kastilien.
Und ich sage, wir können unsere Aufgabe so nicht erfüllen.
Und ich sage, wir erobern jetzt auf eigene Faust.
Sei ruhig, Aguirre!
Ja. Ist noch jemand da?
Er macht so weiter, wie er angefangen hat. Du bist meine letzte Hoffnung.
Du weißt, mein Kind, für das Wohl unseres Herrn war die Kirche immer auf der Seite der Starken.
Werden wir über diesen ganzen Kontinent herrschen. Wir halten durch. Ich bin der Zorn Gottes.
Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is my review of the 1972 foreign drama, Aguirre, The Wrath of God. Now, before I get into sharing my thoughts on this film, I want to give a shout out to Seth for requesting this review. If there is a film, a TV show, an anime, or a topic you'd like to see me discuss in the future, feel free to donate to my PayPal. The link will be in the video description. Now, Aguirre, I'm probably butchering that name, I apologize, is one of those films that I'd heard about for quite a long time. It was referenced numerous times in various different books that were talking about the greatest films ever made, or the films that you must see before you die. It was also in course material for film studies classes that I've taken over the years. But I never really got around to watching it until fairly recently, because it just didn't seem like something that would be in my wheelhouse, something that I would really be that big of a fan of. It just, at first glance, seemed like one of those pretentious foreign films that critics go crazy over due to the subtext, and it just loses me. And ultimately, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be going in, but I didn't love this film. I didn't think it was a masterpiece by any means, but I am still glad that I watched it, because despite my ultimate feelings on the film, there are definitely things about this movie that are noteworthy, that are worth discussing, and worth watching the film for. For instance, I felt Werner Herzog did a remarkable job directing this movie, especially for one of his earliest films, dealing with the elements on an insane level. I mean, you want to talk about guerrilla filmmaking? Like, this is the epitome of that. This is taking a camera, having a cast and crew, and shooting in the middle of an unpredictable jungle. And shooting most of the movie on a raft in the middle of a fucking river. Like this film is honestly pretty crazy when you think about what they decided to do here and how real everything is. Because this is 1972, so it's not like now where you just do stuff behind a green screen. No, you don't have that luxury. You don't have that option. You got to do it for real or don't do it at all. And there is a certain genuine realism that comes from shooting in real locations that you can't really recreate. And as a result, this film just has this hypnotic vibe to it, because it really does embrace the setting of the wild jungle. And Herzog was a pretty wild guy. I mean, he shot this film on a camera that he stole from a local film school because he needed a camera. And he was like, fuck it, I'm stealing this camera. What are you going to do about it? And you know what? I think that's pretty fitting for a film that is such a wild movie in a lot of ways, in terms of the setting, in terms of certain characterizations, and the overall plot. Because the plot of the film is just a bunch of explorers who decide to go to, I think, the jungles in South America and search for El Dorado, the city of gold. And they don't find gold. Instead, they find nothing but death and misery along the river. So it's one of those films where, yeah, plot-wise, it's a bit predictable. Characterization, although there are some characters here that are strong. For instance, Aguirre himself is a strong character. The other ones, not so much. They don't really leave that much of a mark. And while the film is terrific from a technical standpoint, from the directing by Herzog, I mean, there's some really beautiful shots in this. I love the shot at the end of the camera spinning around while Klaus Kinski is standing alone on the raft. I think that's a really impressive shot, especially from a fairly new filmmaker. And I would love to know how he accomplished that, because this is something that was probably pretty difficult to do, because Steadicam wasn't even a thing in 1972 yet. So I don't know what he did. Did he strap the camera to some kind of piece of wood or some other thing that floats and just winged it? I don't know how he did it. It's honestly a really impressive shot. And there are other aspects of the film that I liked. For instance, I like the score. It's very hypnotic and different and unique. And I thought the music by Popol Vuh really did set the mood and atmosphere so well. It's a very mysterious film in a lot of ways, and I feel that the score really does fit the wild, uneven, chaotic nature of the movie. And yeah, the cinematography by Thomas Mausch is also impressive. There's a shot in the beginning that I really was impressed with, of the entire crew of explorers trekking down this massive hill. And it's a really impressive shot. It's one of those establishing shots, so the camera zooms out and just shows the vastness of the jungle and people just going down this massive hill. And it's honestly pretty breathtaking, because it is the real deal. And speaking of the real deal, Klaus Kinski is the real deal when it comes to characters who are depraved, insane, or mad. And the reason why is because Klaus himself was mentally ill. He was not all there. And in some ways, it makes his acting and his performances in films like this even more impressive, because this is a guy who didn't really have his thoughts straight throughout most of his life. So it's really impressive that he was able to memorize or really get any lines down and relay them in a way that is coherent. But it also makes some of his performances where he's playing crazy people less impressive, because I don't really think he's acting. I don't think in when it comes to this movie, the intensity, that's not acting. That's Klaus. That's Klaus Kinski. Intense is his middle name. And that being said, this is still easily one of his best and most standout performances as Aguirre, because there is a certain seething understatement to this performance, where in other performances he's, you could argue, over the top. Here he's more understated. He's more even keeled, despite the fact that he's completely burning up on the inside, and you can see it on the screen. Like, there are plenty of shots in this where if he could light the film on fire, he would, with just his eyes. And that's by design. Werner Herzog, I keep saying that this guy was wild, and he really was, because not only did he get Klaus Kinski to play this role, which is a massive risk, because you are willingly deciding to be alone with this guy for a considerable amount of time, and in some really extreme elements. And if that isn't bad enough, he was crazy enough to push him and make him deliberately as angry as possible so he could get the best performance from him. I mean, that level of dedication is unbelievable, especially with somebody as genuinely dangerous as Klaus Kinski, because he would just rile him up into a frenzy before takes, and then he would wait for him to burn out, and then he would start filming. I mean, it's ingenious, but it's also kind of idiotic. He's lucky that it turned out the way that it did. I mean, this film is infamous for a story where one of the natives, that was cast for the film, something happened while they were shooting. Klaus Kinski wound up shooting one of the natives' fingers off during a take, and this led to other natives and other people, other extras really, ready to just take out Klaus. They wanted to kill him right then and there. And if it wasn't for Werner Herzog, who came in and said, hey, whoa. If you want me to hire somebody to kill him, I'll do it. But we have a movie that we need to finish right now. So if you want to wait, I'll gladly hire somebody to kill Klaus later if that'll make you be willing to finish this shoot. It's just like, what? He actually said, I'll kill him. Just like, what the fuck? Oh man. Oh, holy shit. Werner Herzog is just wild. And that's why Herzog and Kinski make such a really perfect pair, because they're two wild characters, and both of them have this renegade personality that, when the two are combined, it creates sparks. And I can see why a lot of people have been drawn to Kinski's performance in this, because it is a compelling performance. But the thing is, that's the only performance in this film that is amazing or astonishing in any way. The other performances are nothing special in the slightest, and if you took Kinski out of the film, I don't think this would be as well received, despite how well it's shot and how well other aspects of the film are handled. Because the story here, written by Werner Herzog, apparently he wrote it in a very short amount of time, and it kind of shows. It's not that captivating or that interesting. It's very predictable. As soon as this group of explorers winds up in the jungle, and they're trying to find the El Dorado, because they go into the jungles to the east of the Andes Mountains, and you know they're not going to find the city of gold. No one ever finds the city of gold. So you know that they're just going to wind up getting sick of the fever, or getting killed by natives, or just dying alone and hungry, or getting killed by other members of their uh, expedition. And the thing is, it seems like the film might be insinuating with its story that Klaus Kinski's character is the one that's killing some people so he can gain power, but that's never really clarified, or it isn't written that well. So it's something that just seems like it's just speculation, and it's not really something that's confirmed. And you just wait for some kind of twist or some kind of bit of intrigue to happen. There's a scene where they run across some cannibals, and that has potential, but they don't really go anywhere with it. It's just, oh, here's a cannibal tribe, and they move on from that pretty quickly. Yes, there's a lot of lines of dialogue that I can see why a lot of film scholars are like, this is amazing because it arouses my intellect. But when you get past all of that, there's not much there. There's not much in terms of characters that you really care about or are passionate about in any way. Even Aguirre is a character who's honestly an asshole, so uh, that character only goes so far. And like I said, everything just unfolds the way that you think it will. He's alone on a raft in the middle of the river, thinking that he's the wrath of God and he's going to conquer everything, and because he's so full of himself. And you could say that he represents man himself and man against nature and all of that. And I get it. I understand the subtext. I know what they're trying to do here with him on a raft with everybody dead and a bunch of monkeys, because it's man versus nature, and man is so overconfident that they are going to conquer nature when nature is the one that is going to conquer man. I get it. I do. I understand what they're trying to go for here. Um but that doesn't mean that the film is a 5 out of 5 star, 10 out of 10 star. I mean, it's 7.9 out of 10 on IMDb. I don't see it. Like, I honestly agree with the review from Video Movie Guide. Perfect. 3 stars. That's exactly how I feel about this movie. It's a 3-star film. 3 out of 5 stars. I thought it was okay. I know for some people that might be blasphemous, or uh, an example of me just not getting it, or so on and so forth. I got what they're trying to go for here. There's also bits to deal with religion, and how some people who are members of the cloth at the time and still to this day force religion upon people, and they're not necessarily the best people. They don't really live up to the teachings of the Bible all the time. Um, there are some things here that are definitely pretty dated, and when you look at stories and characters today. I mean, there's an African American guy who's just a straight up slave, and there's a scene where they use him as bait, essentially, to I think not necessarily attract the natives, but to scare them away. And that's definitely something that, yes, it's of the time, and that's probably something that was very historically accurate, but it's something that when you look at today's landscape and how things are, I can see where some people could see that and be like, "Ooh, that's a bit racist." But that's the point. I mean, times were different back in the time period that this film was supposedly taking place in 1560. I mean, that was a long time ago. Um, but yeah, it's fine. I think it's got some things that are definitely worth seeing the film for. Like I said, the direction, Klaus Kinski's performance, the other actors and actresses. I mean, Helena, Rojo, Guerra, Del Negro, Peter Berling, Cecelia Rivera. Like, these are all performances that are just meh. Kinski completely destroys everyone else in this movie. There isn't a single actor or actress in this cast that even comes remotely close to being on his level. He just obliterates everybody. So there's a reason why he's, for most people, the most memorable thing about this movie. Because he is the most intense and powerful presence in the film, other than just the jungle and the audacity of Herzog to do what he did and shoot everything on location and do everything for real. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on Aguirre, The Wrath of God. I hope you enjoyed this review, and if you feel like checking this film out and it sounds like your cup of tea, please, by all means, go see it. This is just my opinion. I didn't hate it. I want to make that clear too. I did not hate this movie. I do not think it was a bad film. But at the end of the day, I just thought it was okay. And I think it just comes down to, I felt the story wasn't as engaging in terms of the twists or in terms of how things unfolded. It was a little too predictable. And the characters weren't really that strong other than Aguirre. And like I said, the impact of that character is not consistent throughout. Because there's also another issue, because he's not always in the film doing intense things or doing things that showcase Kinski's talents. Sometimes he's in the background for these other characters, and they're just not really that captivating, and they really aren't given much in terms of the story, in terms of character development or moments in the script that make them stand out. So it's just kind of bland at times, despite the excellent setting of the real jungle and the atmospheric score and a lot of these other elements. It just doesn't all add up together to me to be a masterpiece, because the story's lacking and so are the characters. But anyway, that's my thoughts on Aguirre, The Wrath of God. Thanks for watching, and as always, I'll see you later. See ya.